Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are cracking open the viral playbook to explore one of biology's most fascinating and, frankly, most successful agents, the virus. They are literally everywhere, and they've been shaping our evolution for eons with a strategy that is both brutally simple and just deviously complex. And that brings us to this huge kind of mind-bending question. Viruses are the most abundant biological things on the entire planet. But they live in this weird gray area, a kind of twilight zone between living and non-living. So what in the world are they?
To get our heads around that, we've got to start with the basics. So in this first section, we're going to define what a virus is, and we'll start by looking at what it isn't.
Okay, let's put things in perspective by comparing a virus to something we're all familiar with, a bacterium. See, a bacterium is a self-sufficient little organism. It can make its own energy, ATP, and it has its own tiny factories, called ribosomes, to build proteins. A virus? It has none of that. Zero. It's completely dependent on a host cell for absolutely everything, energy, raw materials, and the machinery to make copies of itself. It is the ultimate biological freeloader.
This total dependency is what gives viruses their official scientific name, obligate intracellular parasites. Now, I know it's a mouthful, but it's the perfect description. Obligate because they have no choice. Intracellular because they have to be inside a cell. And parasite because they take and take without giving anything back. Outside of a host cell that it can infect, what we call a permissive cell, a virus is basically just an inert little particle. It can't do a thing.
And get this, the scale is just mind-boggling. Viruses are unbelievably tiny. A little poliovirus is only about 30 nanometers across. Even a large virus, like a pox virus, is just dwarfed by a common E. coli bacterium. We're talking about something that is orders of magnitude bigger. This tiny size is a huge part of their strategy, right? It helps them get into host cells easily and replicate super fast.
So, if a virus is so helpless on its own, how does it become this incredibly powerful force? Well, it is all about the takeover. In this next section, we're going to walk through how a virus hijacks a permissive host cell. That is, a cell that has the right locks for the virus's keys.
And this process is just brutally efficient. First, the virus gets in. As soon as it's inside, it takes command. The cell's entire energy supply, all that ATP, and its protein factories, the ribosomes, are now working for the virus. The cell is forced to just stop what it's doing and start churning out thousands of copies of viral parts. And then, these parts assemble themselves into new, complete viruses, which we call virions. And finally, they burst out, ready to go infect a whole new set of cells.
This incredibly destructive exit causes what scientists call cytopathic effects, basically the visible damage you can see in the host cell. The most common result is lysis, where the cell literally just bursts open like a water balloon, releasing this whole new army of viruses. And that damage, that's actually how scientists can literally count viruses in the lab, using a technique called a plaque assay.
But not all viruses use this simple smash and grab approach. Oh no. Some have evolved far more sophisticated, far more subtle strategies that involve stealth, genetic trickery, and even, sometimes, some pretty sinister transformations.
So strategy number one is all about stealth. It's called latency. Instead of just replicating like crazy right away, some viruses can get into a host cell and just go dormant, hiding out and waiting for the perfect moment to strike.
And the absolute master of this strategy is the herpes simplex virus, or HSV, the virus that causes cold sores. So after you're first infected, its DNA doesn't immediately take over. Instead, it forms this little independent circle of DNA called an episome, and it hides out inside your nerve cells, specifically in nerve bundles like the trigeminal ganglia. It can just sit there, totally silent for years, until something like stress triggers it to wake up, and bam, you've got a cold sore.
Okay, the next strategy is even more audacious. This one doesn't just borrow the cell's machinery. It actually rewrites the cell's master blueprint. It permanently changes its DNA.
Welcome to the wild world of retroviruses, like HIV. These guys carry a very special enzyme called reverse transcriptase. Now, in biology, there's a fundamental rule called the central dogma. It says that genetic information flows in one direction, from DNA to RNA to protein. Well, reverse transcriptase does exactly what it sounds like. It breaks that rule. It reverses the flow, turning the virus's RNA code back into DNA. And that new DNA can then get stitched directly into our own chromosomes, becoming a permanent part of the cell. And this is not just some new trick. Our own DNA is like a living fossil record of our ancient war with these things. A truly staggering 8% of the human genome is made up of these old viral invaders, which we now call human endogenous retroviruses. They infected our ancestors millions of years ago and became a permanent part of what makes us human.
And that brings us to what is maybe the most dangerous viral strategy of all: oncogenesis. This is when a virus doesn't just kill a cell or hide in it, it transforms it, pushing it down the path to becoming cancerous.
Human papillomavirus, or HPV, is the textbook example here. It launches this two-pronged molecular attack. First, it makes a viral cancer-causing protein, an oncoprotein, called E6. E6's whole job is to find and destroy the cell's master guardian, a tumor suppressor protein called P53. Then HPV makes another oncoprotein, E7. And E7's job is to disable the cell's emergency brake, another crucial tumor suppressor called the retinoblastoma protein, or RB. So, with its guardian gone and its brakes cut, the cell is just pushed towards uncontrolled cancerous growth.
Now, as terrifying as that sounds, it's actually an incredibly rare strategy in the viral world. I mean, out of countless viruses out there, we only know of a small handful, just 7, that can cause cancer in humans. This includes things like HPV, hepatitis B and C viruses, and Epstein-Barr virus. For the virus itself, causing cancer is usually just a dead-end mistake.
Okay, after all that viral doom and gloom, it is definitely time to shift gears, because here's the good news. We are not defenseless, not by a long shot. Our bodies and modern medicine have developed an incredible arsenal to fight back.
First up, your own immune system is a lean, mean, virus-killing machine. Infected cells will actually send out an alarm signal, a chemical called interferon. This alerts these specialized assassin cells, like natural killer cells and cytotoxic T cells, to go on the hunt and destroy any of your cells that have been turned into viral factories.
And modern medicine has gotten so incredibly clever. Take the anti-herpes drug acyclovir. It is a perfect example of what we call selective toxicity. See, our own cells completely ignore it, but the herpes virus has a specific enzyme called thymidine kinase that mistakes the drug for a building block it needs for its DNA. So the virus activates the drug for us. And once that activated drug gets added to a new viral DNA chain, it acts as a dead end, a chain terminator, and instantly stops the replication process cold. The virus is literally tricked into destroying itself. It's brilliant.
And the results of this kind of targeted drug design can be absolutely astonishing. I mean, for hepatitis C, a virus that used to cause chronic, lifelong liver disease, modern drugs called direct-acting antivirals have achieved a cure rate of over 90%. That is genuinely one of the greatest public health victories of our time.
But of course, the ultimate defense isn't treating an infection, it's preventing it from ever happening in the first place. And that is the incredible power of vaccines. The vaccine for HPV, for example, doesn't just prevent warts, it prevents the infection that leads to cervical cancer and other cancers. It is, quite literally, an anti-cancer vaccine. What a monumental achievement for science.
So this brings us to one final, really profound thought. We've spent this whole explainer talking about viruses as this other, right? As invaders that we have to fight off. But when you remember that a huge chunk of our own genetic code, 8%, is made of the remnants of ancient viruses, that line starts to get really blurry. It forces you to ask this amazing question. After millions of years of coevolution, where exactly does the virus end, and where do we begin?
Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into the viral playbook. Stay curious.